Welcome to Ask Jerry and Rebecca, part of Cold Wax Academy, a free video series where we answer your questions about cold wax medium. Hi, welcome to this episode of Ask Jerry and Rebecca, now part of Cold Wax Academy. Today's question is one that a handful of people seem to have encountered, although I think Rebecca and I, after we've talked about it, agree that neither of us have really had this problem to the degree that some people seem to. I think fortunately for us and unfortunately for them. But the question comes to us from three people today: Derek Young, Lori Sokulik, and Judy Jacobs. And I'm going to paraphrase the question, and it really is, why isn't my painting drying? And what they're getting at is that they put down a layer or two or three of cold wax and oils, and they come back some period of time later, a period of time that I think both they and we would have expected the painting to, at the very least, be dry to the touch, but maybe even be perhaps fairly well set up, and it's not. So this is a highly technical question. So I actually have a list here of things because I want to go over it. Some of them are going to seem perhaps silly, but I really want you to pay attention because these are the things that we've encountered over our years of experience that could be getting in the way. First off, I'm going to ask you, do you have the right paint? And by that, what I mean is, are you using artist's oil paint? Because sometimes we find people are mixing cold wax with other media, and cold wax is an oil painting medium. It is meant to be used with artist oil paints, not oil paints from Home Depot, not acrylics, not gouache, artist oil paints from an art supply store. Doesn't matter whether they're professional or student grade, but artists' oil paints. And I ask this because I have been in workshops, taught workshops, where I walk around and people don't even realize they're mixing acrylics with oil paints. So please check that up front. That could be an issue. The second one, and this is so common, are you mixing in wax? And I will walk around workshops, and it's especially true, I think, for beginners. They just forget to mix in the wax. They think they have, but they haven't. And so what they're really painting with is just oil paints, which are very slow to dry. And usually I can tell because I'll look at the body of the paint and it's not stiff enough, and I'll notice the sheen of the paint, and the paint is very oily and shiny looking. And generally when you mix wax with oil paint, it beefs up the body and it lowers the sheen. So please make sure, if this is happening to you, that you actually have added wax. The third question I'm going to ask you is the ratio right? And you can use any ratio, 9:1, 1:9, a layer of oil paint, a layer of wax. We do all kinds of things, but your average day-to-day painting is going to be a mixture of about 50-50. And I'm going to tell you, in my experience, people just often don't estimate that right. I'll walk around and people will have gigantic amounts of wax with just a little bit of oil paint, or they'll have a lot of oil paint and just a little bit of wax. This is going to make a difference in your drying time. So 50-50 or 1:1 means that your pile of paint and your pile of wax before you mix them together should be about the same size. So that's a potential problem. Another question is, are you using any additives? And by that I mean, are you using any linseed oil, any Galkid gel, any Gamblin G gel, any liquid, any of those oil painting additives? Some of them will speed up the drying, but some of them will actually delay the drying, especially ones that are oil-based. So you need to ask yourself that, and if you are, go investigate that product and see what its properties are. Now down to the more kind of typical issues. And the first of those is really environmental issues. So temperature, humidity, and airflow. If you are in a cool or cold, damp environment with little to no airflow, the drying time is going to be very slow. And I used to encounter this a lot. I painted in my garage in Oakland, California, and in the wintertime it would be wet outside, so damp in my garage. It might be 50 or 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and there would be basically no airflow because it's a garage. It could sometimes take days for my layers to set up. So higher temperatures, lower humidity, and more airflow will speed up drying, which means a fan on there can help a lot. Another issue is thickness. So thinner layers dry faster than thick layers. So is this potentially part of your issue, that you have some really thick layers on there? And then finally, brand, color, and grade of the paint. Certain brands dry faster than others. Definitely certain colors dry faster or slower than others. And student grade versus professional grade paints, student grade paints often dry more slowly because they're full of fillers and more oil. So these are all the things that we could think of that could possibly be interfering with a more typical or normal drying time. If none of these apply, truly none of these apply, and your paintings aren't drying, I'm not really sure what to tell you. I'm really sorry. I don't know that I have any more information than that. If other people have ideas, I would love to hear them, so please send them to us. So I hope that that helps answer your question and solve your problem, and thanks for tuning into this episode. Until next time, bye-bye.